starting a new topic, one of our future best friends, that is, see, if you remember, I spoke about one theory called Mandala theory, Chanakya's Mandala theory. It says that your neighbor is your natural enemy and his neighbor is your natural ally. Did I not speak about this? Your neighbor is your natural enemy and his neighbor is your natural ally. You take this logic to any country in the world, it will happen like this. If I take the example of India, you see that I have a problem with China, but I am a very good friend of Russia because Russia happens to be immediate neighbor of what you call China. The same example, Japan also, I will say, India and China have disturbance in their relationship, but India and Japan share a very good relationship because Japan happens to be the immediate neighbor of China. So that is the reason how, same way, India has lot of issues with Pakistan, but at the same time India tries to maintain that ally kind of a relationship with Afghanistan. But the relationship with Afghanistan did not come as a natural ally naturally. Try to understand the statement. See, as I told you, as per Mandala theory, the natural ally, just because of the geographical location, it should come naturally to us, but it did not come naturally to us. The reason why it did not come naturally to us is primarily because Afghanistan has been a victim of invasions over centuries. So what has happened over a period of time, people developed a sense of what you call fear for outside entities. So when you have a sense of fear for outside entities, whether country or a religion or a sect or a class of people, you try to be defensive in your personality, and in that defensive personality you develop core nationalistic fervor. Okay. See, when I talk about Islam's arrival to Afghanistan, Islam came to Afghanistan some 699-700 AD. Okay. So before that, Afghanistan was not an Islamic land. Okay. So Islam came only at 699 AD, right? But if you see, Afghanistan historically also had a sense or a tinge of communist ideology on their land, because Afghanistan also happens to be one of the Central Asian countries in the close proximity to the Central Asian countries, and the Central Asian countries have seen communism in some or the other form on their soil. That is the reason why Afghanistan was okay and welcoming the USSR's involvement in Afghanistan politics, because of the natural presence of a tinge of ideology related to communism in Afghanistan. Okay? And we know that the Britishers also fought for Afghanistan, the Russians also fought for Afghanistan, other European empires that ruled Europe over a period of time, they all fought for Afghanistan. But one thing came out very clearly is, whichever empire tried to interfere or enter or capture Afghanistan, within next 50 years or 100 years, those empires have been completely eliminated from this earth. That is the reason why Afghanistan got a title as the graveyard of civilizations. Anybody entering Afghanistan, it generally happens that civilizations come to an end. When America invaded Afghanistan, today and tomorrow probably we will try to cover Afghanistan in detail, you will understand that when America entered Afghanistan, when they want to launch this war on terrorism in Afghanistan, trying to catch Osama bin Laden, America wanted India also to be part physically of that operation. But India knows, because we have studied the history books, we know that going to Afghanistan physically is not in good interest of anybody. But two countries made this mistake in the modern contemporary time, USSR and US both, and both are paying the price of that even today also, right? So that is why you have to understand, certain lands are gifted by the divine blessing, that if somebody tries to disturb the peace and tranquility or the existing system of its own governing structures, definitely the dimensional fallout would be devastating for those countries. Okay. So now our lecture of Afghanistan is a combination of two dimensions. One is the historical context. This second is basically the relation between India and Afghanistan. What kind of projects we are doing, what is the geostrategical importance of Afghanistan to India, all these dimensions we will talk. Okay. But to understand what is Taliban, the history aspect will take good about 45 to 50% of your time and space in this particular lecture, right. See, the moment Taliban word comes to our mind, we feel that it is a terrorist organization. This is what we generally have this perception, right. I do agree with all of you up to a limit that they have used a weapon as a source to establish their authority. They did not use democracy or election or balloting process or voting process to establish their authority. They definitely used, they strongly believed that power flows from the barrel of the gun and not from the tip of the pen. This is what their belief system is. They believe that power flows from the barrel of the gun. So they have the one dimensional aspect of Afghanistan you should understand is everybody is a soldier there. So when the entire country is full of soldiers only, it is very difficult to conquer that country. That's the reason why I probably also made a statement on these lines that when this Taliban takeover of Afghanistan has happened, see, now what Taliban you see with that proper white clean clothes attending meetings and all, this was not Taliban in 1990s and late 1980s. They are all rack shack dresses, you know, all the dress is torn, the turban is looking somewhere else. There is no what you call footwear, but there is an AK-47 in his hand. It means they are ready to sacrifice their personal comfort for the cause of nationalism that they strongly believe in. So if a country is of citizens of this kind of mindset and personality, it is said that it is very difficult to what you call control or conquer that particular country. Probably US failed to understand this, probably USSR failed to understand this, and various other invasions that have happened in Afghanistan over a period of time, they have also failed. One more dimension of Afghanistan you need to understand before we actually get into the subject proper is, see, they do not have this concept of state, center, union, nothing like this. Afghanistan is all about a combination of tribal councils, right. So there are various tribes who are inhabitant of a particular area. They have this system of councils where the tribal head takes all the decisions, whether it is governance related, finance related, or what you call legal dimensions related or socio-cultural related. So it means that they never had this experience or the taste of so-called state ruling somebody. It is always a tribal council which is taking all the important decisions. So when after America took, you know, what you call eliminated Taliban and took over Afghanistan in some dimensions, when they tried to introduce democracy, this democracy was not received by Afghanistan because they did not know the taste of democracy. They all believed in the tribal council taking decisions and rest all soldiers following that particular decisions. They did not believe in the concept of people have the right to choose their leader. No. And the tribal council heads purely out of their power to control a particular section of society, those councils were formed. So never in the history of Afghanistan they had any democratic exposure that in which they believe in. So that is the reason why when the entire world tried to pitch in democracy into Afghanistan, they did not accept democracy as such. So that is the reason why if you see even today when Taliban has come over, every second or third day there is an article on Taliban or Afghanistan in the newspaper. Today Taliban has said that women will not get education. Yesterday they said that something else, that you know religious things will be followed, women has to wear a particular kind of dress only. Where is this coming from? This all is coming from their basic tenets which they have been following ever since last 1500 years. So they have now accepted that this is our belief system. Irrespective of the contemporary world going advanced in their belief system, we do not want to believe in that. We want to continue with this only. So there is an hesitancy, they are not open to change in this society. This thing you need to understand. You do not think from the perspective of that they are anti-women or not. No, it is not so. They are basically against change because they feel that all these changes have Western influence in them. And these Western influence systems do not fit into my societal structures. So if I accept this Western concept of education, empowerment, equality and all those things, my social systems cannot support these dimensions and eventually my society will fall. So that is the reason why there is strong hesitancy. That is why there is lot of strong nationalistic fervor in Taliban. You will see in future, maybe 50 years or 100 years down the line, Taliban will emerge as an island nation on the world map, which is going backwards when the other countries are going forward when it comes to empowerment or progressive society and all those things. Taliban, you will see Afghanistan, if it continues under Taliban, you will see that they are only going backwards. Okay? So all these dimensions put in place, we will try to dive a little deep into history and of Afghanistan and try to understand what has happened in detail after 1945 World War till date to understand the present structures of Afghanistan. Okay? Before that, I think one small topic related to India Pakistan was pending. This was Indus Water Treaty. So this topic also I will take 5-7 minutes to complete. This is the Indus Water Treaty. The Indus, as we all know, is a combination of primarily how many rivers? 6 rivers. Indus itself, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj. Okay? These are the 6 rivers which are collectively called as Indus system, right? 6 rivers: Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj. These are the 6 rivers. Now, obviously, you can demarcate a boundary on land, but you cannot demarcate a river. That is the biggest challenge. When river or a water body happens to be a boundary between 2 territories, and if it is a water body which is flowing in nature in the form of a river, it is extremely difficult to say this much of water belongs to me and this much of water belongs to you, because over a period of time the water changes its course, the perennial nature of the water may what you call alter over a period of time, and all these small issues will come. But despite the fact that these are combination of 6 major river systems, the relationship with Pakistan on this particular dimension has been very good. It was in news in last couple of months before June, if I remember it correctly, when a permanent commission has been set up as part of Indus Water Treaty, which sits at regular intervals and decides on various issues related to water sharing between India and Pakistan. So the 118th permanent commission meeting had happened in the year June 2022. So this is a regular feature. I told you on one side, I made a statement yesterday that there is no dialogue with Pakistan, but despite the fact that this is happening regularly, it means that the Indus Water Treaty, the provisions of the treaty, the respecting of the treaty and the agreement related to sharing of nuclear, what was the agreement name? What was the agreement name? The agreement in which we decided to share our nuclear assets details with each other. Yesterday, India and Pakistan agreed to share the details of their assets. Lahore Agreement? Hello? हाँ? Lahore Agreement कल का है और आज भूल गए हो. Lahore Agreement. So these 2 examples you can always quote. See, now the Indus River, it originates from Tibet and flows through the Himalayan ranges to enter Pakistan, ending in the south of Karachi. Very important. Now here you look. See, many a times Modi had made the statement that blood and water cannot flow together. Now, if I was the news reporter, a journalist interviewing Modi, I would have asked him, how will you stop? You made a statement, blood and water cannot flow together. If I was the journalist, I would have asked him, sir, now that you have made the statement that blood and water cannot flow together, I agree with you. Do you have any tap connection to stop the water? What is the methodology that you are trying to say that I will stop? If you stop, Tibet is under whom? Tibet is under whom? China बोलेगा मेरे पास बड़ा टैप है, because you also need these waters. Punjab is dependent on this. Yesterday we spoke about Ravi river, no? Ravi river के ऊपर क्या था? The Kartarpur Gurdwara is there, Kartarpur Gurdwara was there. So that is the reason why these rivers have significance for India also. If you try to close on the tap for Pakistan, somebody is closing the tap for you also, and who happens to be the natural ally of Pakistan. So making these kind of statements only spoil the good performance of the treaties for over past 6-7 decades. If you have the infrastructure to control the flow of water, very good, but we do not have anything on ground like that. It was just a political statement. Now, in 1947, but one thing you need to understand here is, when this river originates in Tibet, the mightiness of the river does not start in Tibet. No, it is just a small stream flowing from Tibet. It is only when these tributaries add to the Indus, that is when the mightiness of Indus water happens, right? So it means that when it is starting in its originating point from Tibet, it is just a small stream of water that is flowing southwards or downwards, right? And it is only after when it is joined by the tributaries, the mightiness of Indus is created. Okay? This dimension you need to understand. Okay? So in 1947, the line of partition, aside from delineating geographical boundaries for India and Pakistan, also cut the Indus system into two parts. What they said, both the sites were dependent on water from the Indus river basin to keep their irrigation infrastructure functional, and therefore equitable distribution of water was needed. But this distribution did not happen equitable. The distribution happened more in favor of Pakistan and less in favor of India. It is said that India got approximately 21% of share of Indus water, rest went to Pakistan. And it is said even today that India is unable to utilize even this 21% fully for some reasons. So we are unable to utilize this 21% also fully, right? Initially the Inter-Dominion Accord of May 1948 was adopted. According to this, both the countries, after meeting for a conference, decided that India would supply water to Pakistan in exchange for annual payment made by the Pakistan. Very, very important. What was decided in 1948 is that Pakistan will pay India certain amount of money annually in exchange of receiving uninterrupted water from this Indus water system. This was the initial context. This agreement, however, soon disintegrated as both the countries could not agree upon its common interpretation. So it did not continue because they could not achieve at various dimensions of how much water would be released per day, what is the timing of the release of the water, no physical infrastructure mechanism to control the flow of water, and they did not agree on the price dimension between both the countries. See, in a geographical area, the upper riparian country, the country which is on a higher land along a water body, it generally has some amount of primacy on that particular water. Same way, you know, China is a country where so many mighty rivers originate, right? And these people have not signed any agreement with any country in the world, despite the fact that they are upper riparian countries and constructing certain dams which are disturbing the flow of water. There is one dam of China. It says that when the dam construction got completed, the mightiness of the dam was such that it disturbed the rotation of the earth also. That is the amount of what you call size of that particular dam. Now the homework is to find out which is that dam, on which river they have constructed this particular dam. This is your homework that you are supposed to do. Okay? Now coming back to our question. In 1941, in the backdrop of this water sharing dispute, both the countries applied to the World Bank for funding of their respective irrigation projects on the Indus and its tributaries. Here World Bank did a very intelligent job. Now, as I told you, if there is no irrigation related infrastructure, the presence of a river does not have any importance to any country, because it is only in the absence of irrigation infrastructure, maybe only the adjoining areas can benefit from the presence of that water body, but the benefit cannot be taken for a longer distance. Okay. So, to have a longer distance, you need to have strong irrigation support infrastructure, and because India and Pakistan both were recent newborn babies, they did not have the money to carry out such significant scale what you call irrigation projects. So, in this backdrop, we knocked the doors of World Bank, and World Bank saw this as a very good opportunity to bring both of them on a common platform. Now, you have to understand in the backdrop, this is same time frame when the UN Security Council had sent two idiots to find a solution for Kashmir dispute, where they were failing to find that particular solution. World Bank, another institution formed by the West after the Second World War, tried to find a peaceful way out here. Okay. Now, in this backdrop, this is when the World Bank offered to mediate the conflict. Finally, in 1960, 9 years of deliberation, after nearly a decade of fact finding, negotiation, proposals by the World Bank and amendments to them, an agreement was reached between the two countries, and this was signed. Please make a note of the names. Prime Minister Nehru, it is easier for India, and President of Pakistan, Ayub Khan. Very, very important. R. Modi made a statement here. As per Vienna Convention, it is head of the state who is supposed to sign agreements on behalf of that particular country, and in India, the head of the state is the president. तो गुजराती भाई ने एक लूप होल निकाला कि how to come out of this particular agreement. How to come out of this particular agreement? He found a loophole. Now, in that way, Shimla agreement can also be revoked. No, I'll come to that. In this dimension, what happened is, here in the IW treaty only, they put in a clause that no country can come out of it. In this particular Indus Water Treaty, IWT, they inserted a clause that no country can unilaterally come out of this, right. Now, coming back to his question of Shimla agreement, yes, the Shimla agreement has also been signed between two prime ministers of our prime minister and their, who signed the Shimla agreement on behalf of Pakistan? On behalf of India, who signed? Your daredevil lady signed. Who was the other side? One more agreement we signed with him. Now, you need to understand here is that when we talk about a dimension of this related to Vienna Convention that President should sign, we do not bring in the dimension of where we have an advantage. In Shimla agreement, obviously, we have an advantage because wherein Pakistan agreed to resolve all the disputes bilaterally. So, when we make this reference, that is the reason why this statement by Modi was not supported by anybody, including his government also, because they knew there are lot of repercussions of this. Pakistan may say, okay, revoke this, I will revoke, as he said, I will revoke the Shimla agreement. So, that is the reason why we did not further what you call probe into this particular issue. So, certain statements are made purely on political lines. So, this thing we need to understand. Coming back to the IWT, the former Vice President of the World Bank, W.A.B. Iliff, also signed it. It means that there is a third person who has also signed it. It means it was a kind of a tripartite agreement, though not in its pure form. So, but the World Bank, Vice President of the World Bank, W.A.B. Iliff, also signed this particular Indus Water Treaty. Okay? Now, the treaty prescribed how the water from 6 rivers of the Indus River system would be shared between India and Pakistan. What it said, the 3 western rivers of the Indus system, which include your Indus, Chenab and Jhelum. the best way to remember the rivers which belong to India is remember the first letters BRS. In banking there is a dimension called bank reconciliation statement, BRS. Commerce students would know about this. So it is easy to remember BRS, Beas, Ravi and Satluj belong to India, and the three western rivers Indus, Chenab and Jhelum belong to Pakistan. But in this, barring certain non-consumptive agricultural and domestic uses by India. Now it is here you need to understand what the waters Pakistan got access of these three rivers. It is not 100% access to these particular waters. There are certain non-consumptive agricultural and domestic uses by India. Now the issue here is, when you said non-consumptive, how can you use it for agriculture? Because agriculture is a, when you use water in agriculture, can you get that water back from there? It is not possible. So it is a very typical statement. On one side they are talking about non-consumptiveness. Probably they are talking from the dimension of diversion of the flow of rivers to other areas. Maybe from that particular perspective they are talking. So it is not the exclusivity on all the three rivers that Pakistan got, which India got. India got the exclusive use of the eastern rivers. The reason why it got the exclusive use of the eastern rivers is the mightiness of these rivers on comparison to them is much more lower. As I told you, I got only 21%, he got approximately 80% of access to the water, right. The three eastern rivers Ravi, Beas and Satluj were allocated to India for unrestricted usage, means there was no restrictions on India how to use these three particular rivers. Even if I want to construct a dam, I want to divert, I don't have to even intimate Pakistan anything about it. So it is an unrestricted usage. This means that 80% of the share of water, or about 135 million acre per feet, went to Pakistan, while leaving only 33 MAF or 20% of water for use by India. It also required both the countries to establish a permanent Indus Commission constituted by the permanent Indus commissioners by both the sides. Okay. So now three rivers went to Pakistan, but they did not get a exclusivity right. We got certain rights of non-consumptive usage for agricultural purposes and for domestic uses by India. See, domestic use here means basically for run of the river electricity generation projects. Run of the river without disturbing the flow of the water. If you can create some mechanism that you can make some electricity run of the river using some energy, you have the access to do that. That is meant for the domestic usage here. Okay, that is the meaning of domestic usage here. While Pakistan has rights over the waters of Jhelum, Chenab and Indus, Annexure C of the IWT allows India certain agricultural uses, and Annexure D allows it to build run of the river hydropower projects, meaning projects not requiring live storage of water. This you need to understand. Okay? Whenever you say a project is run of the river, it means you are not storing water anywhere. Without disturbing the flow of the water, you are trying to generate certain electricity, right. It also provides certain design specifications which India has to follow while developing certain projects. Design specifications. So whenever we try to do something, Pakistan always took India to the World Bank saying that, see, these people are violating the specification standards that have been decided. So there have been instances when both the countries what you call fought with each other over certain projects that they have done, because on Jhelum Pakistan had done certain projects, and on Indian side also India also did some projects, and we were successful in stopping certain projects of Pakistan on the river Jhelum also. But Pakistan has not been successful in stopping any projects of India on its three rivers which were exclusive for India, right. The treaty also allows Pakistan to raise objections over such projects being built by India if it does not find them to be compliant with the specifications. See, that's the reason why I said whenever a water sharing treaty is signed between an upper riparian country and a lower riparian country, generally the treaty will tilt towards the lower riparian country. It will try to give benefit to a lower riparian country. This has generally been the trend. India has to share information on the project design or alteration made to it with Pakistan, which is required to respond with objections, if any, within 3 months of time. So, if at all I am trying to develop a new project, when the project start, I need to share all the design specifications and alterations with Pakistan, to which they are supposed to respond within 3 months of time. Besides, India is allowed to have a minimum storage level on the western rivers, meaning it can store up to 3.75 MAF of water for conservation and flood storage purposes. For conservation and the flood storage, only for these two dimensions you can also store certain amount of water of the western rivers which are dedicated for Pakistan. So, you do not have to remember all these specifications, but you should just remember that the western rivers that have been given to Pakistan, it is not unrestricted, but the eastern rivers that have been given to India are unrestricted usage with certain conditions on both the sides. And also one issue related to Permanent Water Commission. And about the dispute settlement mechanism, it says the IWT also provides for a 3-step dispute resolution mechanism, under which questions on both sides can be resolved at the Permanent Commission's meeting level, or the issue can also be taken up at the intergovernment level. One is when the Permanent Commission sits, like the one which sat in June 2022, any issues that can be brought in. Second, in case of unresolved questions or differences between the countries on water sharing, such a technical difference either side can approach the World Bank to appoint a neutral expert to come to a decision. This is when India and Pakistan on many occasions have approached the World Bank. Third, and eventually if either party is not satisfied with the what you call neutral experts decision, or in case of dispute in the interpretation and extent of the treaty, matters can be referred to the court of arbitration. Very, very important. The matters can be referred to the court of arbitration also. The IWT does not have a unilateral exit provision, I told you. It means that unilaterally means without the support of other party. Unilaterally, there are no provisions for exit provision, and is supposed to remain in force unless both the countries ratify another mutual agreed upon treaty. If both the countries exit that they want to now do not want to listen to what is written in IWT, they can do it mutually, but unilaterally it is not allowed. Unilaterally it is not allowed. If somebody tries to do, the other country can always go to the court of arbitration. Very important. Okay? Now, this was about the Indus Water Treaty, right? I would suggest you go back home. When you go back home, try to find some source where certain disputes related to IWT, you Google which river, which project, who objected, all these details are not important from exam point of view, but you should be knowing them. Both the countries. See, when I am saying on tributaries, you are basically talking about Indian tributaries. Yes, the same rules apply both the sides. The same rules apply to both the sides. But unrestricted usage you have, there is no question on that. But the point is that if you create an infrastructure, though you have not done anything on the western rivers, but if it does have an impact on the flow of water of the western rivers, then Pakistan can always raise a claim. Many a times we did something on the river Ravi and Bias. Ravi and Bias, that is where Pakistan has taken India to World Bank and also to the court of arbitration. This is what I wanted you to go and have a reading once. Just a read, it is a casual read. Okay, now coming to Afghanistan, very important. The first homework about Afghanistan is the countries that border Afghanistan. This is the small homework that you need to do, which are the countries that share border with Afghanistan. I had given you an homework, double landlocked countries of the world. हाँ कौन सा है? Uzbekistan and in Europe, how do you spell that country? Liechtenstein क्या है? अपना country नहीं है यार, कैसा भी pronounce करो, who is bothered? हाँ? So these are the two countries which are known to be the only double landlocked countries in the world. Okay. Now coming back to Afghanistan, a small peep into the historical past. Before that, how Afghanistan ethnicity is divided. If you see, major part of Afghan is around Pashtuns, who are the majority in Pakistan, occupying 42% of tribal community, followed by Tajiks 27%, and Hazaras are the minority in Pakistan. In Afghanistan, they are sometimes in news also, the Hazara communities. Okay? So that is how Pashtuns primarily, followed by Tajiks and Hazaras, right? There are other certain other small tribal groups also. We have a strong emotional bonding also. Tagore's famous poem on Kabuliwala, it tries to talk about, the people of Afghanistan, Afghanistan culture and all these dimensions. So we have a emotional bonding also with what you call Afghanistan, because there was a time when Afghanistan was under the British control for a small duration of time between Anglo-Afghan War 1 and Anglo-Afghan War 3. So in this time period, in between there was some control, but the last Anglo-Afghan War, Britishers lost it. Afghanistan came back to the control of Afghani people. Okay. So emotional bond, Tagore's Kabuliwala poem. In this work, the Afghan people and about the Afghan culture was discussed. This showed consciousness about the Afghan people and their culture in the minds of the people. And historically, as you know, the Indus Valley civilization, Afghanistan has been noted also in the empire chronicles of the Mauryas, the Ashokas, the Kushanas and also the Indo-Scythians also. So there is a mention about Afghanistan in these texts also. It means that there was certain amount of contact and what you call cultural interaction with this particular territory. The Indian ruler who had the strongest control over Afghanistan was Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Okay? See, there is a fighter called Mewad's fighter, Mahmud Khalji, you can call it either name. This guy was always on the war front, never won a battle kind of a thing, but he kept on fighting. So he was born to fight, right? Despite the fact that he never won a battle. Now the second, I would want you to Google about this guy, Muhammad Khalji, Mewad. He also fought with Delhi Sultanate. Muhammad Khalji or Khilji, whatever you can. But the problem with Maharaja Ranjit Singh was, had Maharaja Ranjit Singh was known to have Asia's second largest standing army, a very strong artillery, and outsiders as what you call the defense experts in his army, all this bandwagon, everything was there, but he did not fight the East India Company. This is the biggest blot, a great warrior, no doubt about it, but this is the biggest blot on his persona, that he did not confronted the East India Company at the right time. Had he confronted the East India Company, it is said that in less than a week's time, Maharaja Ranjit Singh would have defeated East India Company and India would not have come under the rule of East India Company or the British Empire at all. So that is how historians say that we lost a golden opportunity when our own ruler had such a large army, because of the differences, because of the higher dimensional presence of regionalism than nationalism, we could not confront a small enemy also, right? And when he confronted, by that time the East India Company's mightiness increased, and Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the Sikh Empire was one of the last empires to be integrated into the British empires. After that, they generally did not do any major wars. So that is how our timely action would have saved our country. But why I brought the information of Maharaja Ranjit Singh is, he was the only ruler in the past in the entire history of probably the modern Afghanistan or the medieval Afghanistan who established strong control in this particular territory for a long period of time, right? And India-Afghanistan, soft relation, the culinary based relations, the Kabuli Chana, the multiplicity of relations also will only result in depth in relations. See, you will come to know in couple of slides more that our relationship with Afghanistan, because when POK dimension was not there, we know that we have more than 100 kilometers of border sharing with Afghanistan also. Now that after 1947 when the POK was occupied by Pakistan, we lost the direct touch. That is the reason why we are trying to go via Arabian Sea to reach Afghanistan, right? Via Iran. We are trying to go like that, right? Now, when we had this direct land connect between Afghanistan and India, and because Afghanistan happened to be an important route, en route, the Silk route and also the route to European empires, there was regular interaction between the erstwhile India and Afghanistan. This you need to understand, okay? Both from the north and from the west. Both from the north and from the west. From the west via today's Pakistan and from the north via Kashmir through Maharaja Ranjit Singh's kingdom. Okay? So, this is how we established relationship with Afghanistan. See, due to its location, Afghanistan has been a hub of diverse cultures, prompting one historian to dub it to the roundabout of the ancient world. If you want to take a roundabout of the ancient world, you have to visit Afghanistan, because you will see the diverse cultures, ethnic presence there in Afghanistan. Those who settled included the Persians under the Darius the Great and the Greeks led by Alexander the Great. These are the people who invaded Afghanistan in the historical past and settled there also, right? Many present day towns are built on Greek foundations. A Buddhist civilization also flourished in the time frame of 10th century under the so-called Bamiyan, in the recent movie, which it was shown, Ram Setu, this idiotic, movie. I don't know what kind of screenplay they did. After half of the movie, they spoiled the screenplay. So in that also they tried to show how the Taliban people destroyed the Bamiyan historical sculptures and all, right? So that is how this problem has been there. And as part of one of the raids, the Arabs raided the Afghanistan, basically one place called Kandahar in 699, as I told you, bringing Islam for the first time to Afghanistan, right? It strengthened as the Turks gained power in Iran, Afghanistan and India. So that is when from 700 AD you see Afghanistan getting Islamized over a period of time. Okay? I want you also to read about, make a box, though the box is small but the content is big. The content is how the Islamic world tried to convert the world into Islam, and how the Christianity tried to convert the world into Christianity. What is the basic difference between the two? This dimension you try to Google about it and try to understand when the Islamization of the world started and when the expansion of Christianity in the world started, especially in India. I think I told about this gentleman who came to India when Christianity came to India for the first time. Try to make a note about it just for your information, not important from exam per se, right? Then the Mongolia's famous Genghis Khan also invaded the land in the 13th century. For the next few hundred years, Afghanistan was fought over by various Indian and Persian, very important, Indian and Persian empires. Finally, in the 18th century, 18th century means 1701 to 1799. Finally, in the 18th century, a group of Pashtun tribes, Pashtuns are the majority in Afghanistan, right? A group of Pashtun tribes under Durrani, Ahmad Shah Abdali, also called Ahmad Shah Abdali, defeated the Mughals and the Persians and consolidated its own large but unstable empire. So the consolidation of the Afghanistan empire only happened in the 18th century under a ruler called Ahmad Shah Abdali or Durrani, right? So this is where real Afghanistan history will travel from here. Okay, we will try to understand from here. So during the 19th century, Afghanistan was caught up in Anglo-Russian war. I spoke about this, the Great Game, as the power struggle known as the Great Game, where Britain tried to bring Afghanistan under the direct rule, but suffered a resounding defeat in the first Anglo-Afghan war, 1839 to 1842. So Britain suffered the defeat in the first Anglo-Afghan war. The imperial power tried again in 1878-80. This time Afghanistan lost much territory and the control of its external affairs to Britain. To keep the Russia at bay and protect its Indian colony, Britain provided, this is where it all starts, Britain provided modern weapons and annual subsidy to Afghanistan rulers. This is how the weaponry entered Afghanistan for the first time. Basically, the intention was to keep Russia at bay. This is the time why they are using the word Russia is USSR is not formed yet. The USSR was formed in the earlier part of the 20th century, 1917 to 1922, when the USSR formation happens, right? So the Britain provided weapons to the Afghanistan rulers with an intention to use the weapons against the Russians, where Britain wanted Russia not to enter Afghanistan. Okay? Now, one of these was Abdur Rahman Khan, the Afghanistan rulers, known as the Iron Amir and the unificator of Afghanistan. He created a powerful army in 1893, the Durand Line, very, very important in the history of Afghanistan. Durand Line, D-U-R-A-N-D. The Durand Line fixed the border with Britain, India, but tribal areas were split, leaving half in what is now in Pakistan. And this death his death, the Abdur Rahman Khan's death in 1901, Abdur Rahman Khan was succeeded by his son Habibullah. Try to understand the dimension of this sentence here. See, when the Durand Line was created as the boundary, try to understand, he created a powerful army. In 1893, the Durand Line fixed the border. This Durand Line erstwhile fixed the border between Afghanistan and Britain, India. Pakistan is not born yet. So it is between Afghanistan and Britain, India. It was the Durand Line. Now, when unlike the McMahon Line, the Durand Line, you know, when Durand Line was designed, people were not very strict with the application of the boundary on ground. It means easy through and fro was allowed because the tribal areas were split into two parts. Lot of Baluchis who had Afghanistan origin, they came. That is the reason why the entire Baluchistan is in present Pakistan. That is what Taliban says today. Historically, Baluchistan are my people. What are Baluchis doing in Pakistan? Pakistan is a Islamic country, not a tribal country, and Baluchistan is a tribe of historical Afghanistan, and the entire Baluchistan belongs to me or Taliban or Afghanistan. This is their stand, right? Now, what happened when the Durand Line was created on ground? There was no strict rule on the control of people across the Durand Line because the tribal areas got split. But when Pakistan was born, immediately Pakistan did one thing, that it sent all its troops to the western sector of Pakistan along Afghanistan, and they said this is an international boundary, you cannot cross. This is where the rivalry started between Afghanistan and Pakistan, because earlier the Britishers were not very headstrong in controlling the movement, but when Pakistan was born, it started controlling the movement of people, right? So this is how the unificator of Afghanistan is Abdur Rahman Khan. After his death in 1901, he is succeeded by his son called Habibullah. And if you know, in the modern European history that we read, this was the time of all secret alliances. This was the time of all secret alliances, right? So Habibullah was a liberalizer, very important, who introduced modern style of education. After World War I, pressure was mounting for full independence. Several newspapers were launched by Afghan intellectuals, especially Mahmud Tarzi. After King Habibullah was assassinated in 1919, his son Amanullah seized the throne and declared independence. And this independence from whom? Declared independence from whom? He has said no, pressure was mounting for full independence. किसके ऊपर? Whose control? अरे whose control? Full independence. I gave a word पीछे. After the second Afghan war, somebody was controlling their external affairs, the Britain. So they wanted complete independence from Britain. So that declaration happened after his son, what you call Habibullah's son Amanullah seizes the power and he is assassinated. Habibullah is assassinated. If you read the history of Habibullah's assassination, you will come to know that this guy is involved. This guy eliminated his own father to become the king of Afghanistan. Britain was defeated in Third Anglo-Afghan War in 1919 and 1921 and Afghanistan regained control of its foreign affairs. Amanullah, the reform king, undertook land reform, regularized taxes, extended education and gave the country's first constitution. Afghanistan got its constitution before you even dreamt of having a constitution. Okay? Now, but his attempts to shift power away from village elders, the tribal councils which I spoke, but his attempt to what you call shift the power structures from village elders and the religious establishment led to revolts and he was toppled in the year 1938 because he also tried to bring in some dimensions democracy to Afghanistan, which Afghanistan did not agree for it, right. A Tajik called Bachai Sakau seized power but was soon deposed and executed by a Pashtun leader very famously called Nadir Khan, who started a dynasty that was to last till 1978. It means till 1978 Afghanistan was under a dynasty rule, very very important. Try to understand this. Though they got their constitution before you, but they continue to be under a dynasty rule for long period of time. 1978. This is when in 1978 Russia enters Afghanistan, clearing that dynasty from Afghanistan. Okay? So this is when for the first time no dynasty is ruling Afghanistan. Okay? Now the British fought the Anglo-Afghan wars. The Britishers kept the state of Afghanistan as a buffer state between India and Russia. We must remember here that ever since 1920s, as I told you earlier, Afghanistan had communist leanings or communist tiltings. Since 1920s, Afghanistan showcased certain dimensions of communist leanings or communist tiltings. Just before the World War II, the British India told Afghanistan that your territory is important for Britain. In 1944, very important, Britain promised to supply arms and train the Afghan soldiers. Very important, this led to arming and training of the Afghanistan soldiers. But when India became independent, we said, I cannot provide you weapons. Because they expected, because India took over this, the independence from Britain, Afghanistan expected that India will share weapons with Afghanistan now after Britain left India. But India said in 1945 at the end of World War II, the British stopped these weapons support and training the support. Why? Because uska matlab nikal gaya. His aim is achieved that he did not want Russia to open a new axis in Afghanistan. When the aim was achieved, that is reason why he gave weapons to Afghanistan, he stopped giving weapons to Afghanistan. So that is why the revenge of Afghanistan with the West is not new, it is an old revenge that they have to be fulfilled, right. In 1947, the British also left India. After independence, India asserted it can continue to train the Afghan soldiers, but it will not go ahead with arms supply as it would contradict India's non-aligned credentials. Even today, India trains Afghanistan soldiers in India. In various academies of army, the Afghanistan soldiers and officers come for training. I have also trained with Afghanistan soldiers, very headstrong guys. Okay. So, the system of training their soldiers is continued even today, but we are not supplying any arms or ammunition to Afghanistan, right. This showcases India's potential and willingness to provide security cooperation way back in 1940s. Security cooperation, it is not security protection, it is just security cooperation. The moment it becomes security protection, it will become a alliance, it will become an alliance. It is just security cooperation. Cooperation, security cooperation may include training of the soldiers, may also include buying and selling of weapons also. So, but we did not do buying and selling of weapons. Afghanistan responded saying that they will get back to us when they need this type of support from India. India said okay. Why I have written like this is, you will understand that this will return to the history when they will actually come back to India for help, right. Therefore, Afghanistan became one country to which India advocated security cooperation immediately after its independence. We said, I will cooperate with you on security. Why? Because there was a belief system that Pakistan may try to have control over Afghanistan. Even today, Pakistan tries to, the ISI of Pakistan, one of the mandates, one of the responsibilities given to ISI of Pakistan even today is to control the internal affairs of Afghanistan in some or the other way. Taliban is very, very angry with ISI's deep roots presence in Afghanistan even today. Okay? Modern India-Afghanistan relations can be traced back to India-Afghanistan Friendship Treaty. Please make a note. The Friendship Treaty of India-Afghanistan signed in the year 1950. Right? The treaty laid down the foundation of diplomatic ties and enabled the foundational relations in culture and trade only. So, the diplomatic ties between India and Afghanistan go back to 1950. Go back to 1950. Okay. This is reiteration of what we have studied. Coming back, at the onset of Cold War, we know that after the World War II ended, the Cold War period started from 45 till 1991. Afghanistan tilted towards Pakistan. This is very important that you need to understand. At the onset of the Cold War, Afghanistan tilted towards Pakistan. In 1893, Britishers created a boundary between British India and Afghanistan. This boundary was called Durand Line. This Durand Line divided British India and Afghanistan. Due to this, the Britishers were able to maintain Afghanistan as a buffer state. But in 1947, with the creation of Pakistan, an ideological construct, please understand this word, an ideological construct got manifested to a territorialization. As a result, the boundary between British India and Afghanistan now became a boundary between Pakistan and Afghanistan. So, which was only an ideological construct of divide between Afghanistan and British India, in 1947 it became true on ground also when territorially the boundary was drawn between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Afghanistan society can be broadly divided into four major ethnic groups: the Pashtuns, the Tajiks, the Uzbeks and Hazaras. While the first three are Sunnis, the last is the Hazaras are Shia Muslims. So, the Shia Sunni conflict also has presence in Afghanistan, where the Hazaras are basically the Shia Muslims. It is but natural that the Shia Muslims would show allegiance to Iran. So, Iran's trump card in Afghanistan is the Hazaras, which they use even today. So, Iran has found a fault line in Afghanistan in the form of Hazaras. Okay? So, this one dimension you need to understand here, right. Now, out of the three Sunni groups, Pashtuns are the most dominant group. Therefore, the Pashtun always decided the political discourse of Afghanistan. As I told you, in Pakistan, Punjabis are the dominant group. They always decided the political, military and economic discourse of Pakistan, the same way in Afghanistan, Pashtuns are the majority group. When the Durand line was created, practically the Pashtuns living on the either side of the Durand line got divided. It means the majority or the dominant group got divided into two what you call territories. One was Afghanistan, the other is newly created Pakistan, right? Now what happened? And though this line was created when the British India was there was no strict control on the movement of people along the border. The boundary line was kind of effective only on paper. With the creation of Pakistan, Afghanistan refused to accept the Durand line as the boundary between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Firstly, this is a line created by the British. Secondly, the Durand line has divided the Pashtuns on two sides of the Durand line. So they also use the same language what Chinese used for McMahon line. So they said this is a line created by the Britishers and we do not agree with the line. And secondly, the Durand line divided the dominant group Pashtuns into two territories in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Afghanistan refused to accept the Durand line and asked peacefully to Pakistan to give Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to Afghanistan as these are Pashtun dominated territories. Though Afghanistan did not agree with the Durand line, it was not aggressive in its approach. You need to understand this. It was initially not aggressive in its approach. It tried to resolve the issue peacefully by being close to Pakistan and tried to get those territories by peace and negotiation. It is known as the policy of, remember, the policy of appeasement. Did not antagonize Pakistan, right? That is the reason why in Cold War Afghanistan sided with Pakistan. This you need to understand. Okay? However, Pakistan insisted on Durand line as the border. India on the other hand tried to convince Afghanistan to internationalize the issue, but Afghanistan was adamant to remain pro-Pakistan. This kind of behavior became an irritant between India and Pakistan. The way Pakistan internationalized the Kashmir issue, we found a trump card in Pakistan or a fault line in Pakistan in the form of Balochistan, where we tried to influence Afghanistan to internationalize the Balochistan issue, but Afghanistan did not agree at that point of time. It agrees now, but at that point of time it did not agree, right? This is the Afghanistan and Pakistan's Durand line. Okay, this is very important part. If you see, Pakistan shares a boundary with Iran also and a boundary with a very long boundary with Afghanistan. Very, very important. Try to understand this. Okay. And what Taliban or Afghanistan claims is this part of entire Balochistan they claim as part of Afghanistan, and this entire Khyber Pakhtunkhwa also they claim as part of Afghanistan. If both go to Afghanistan, iske paas bachega kya? And if I take over Kashmir and this entire region, if I take over, in this entire region if I take over, only two will be remaining with, okay? The Khalistan people will take care of this, okay? बचा क्या? सिंध नवजोत सिंह सिद्धू को भेज देंगे, वो सिंध लेके आ जाएगा, ठीक है? पाकिस्तान गया, ठीक है? I don't know about this part, but this will happen sooner or later. This will happen sooner or later. How much bloodshed, who will play key role, what role India will play in that, these are all to be waited and seen on ground. Okay? But 100% India will play a very important role here. Whenever that is going to happen, either I will be the initiator or I will play a crucial role in the process of shifting of some power struggles between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Because this is my fault line in Pakistan. This is my fault line in Pakistan. And this is the biggest fear of Pakistan. Okay? So their life is all about fear. The way you fear UPSC, you know, they also fear. See, the Pashtun exactly matches the map of Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. This lined territory, this is all Pashtun, even today, all Pashtun dominated territories. If you take out this map and put on this map, it will exactly match. So the Pashtuns who originally belong to what you call Afghanistan have been unnecessarily given to Pakistan. Now India's relationship in 1965, India and Pakistan war happens. We know this. India emerges victorious in the war. At the end of the war, Pakistan goes to United Nations and said India is not giving right to self-determination in Kashmir. You remember the plebiscite issue? Right to self-determination in Kashmir. India is rejecting the will of the Kashmiri people, and that India has forcefully holding on the Kashmir territory against the will of the people. India immediately countered in UN by saying that there is no RTSD in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So whenever he says Kashmir, I say Balochistan and KP, right? And when with this narration, Afghanistan became angry. Very important. It felt that by India's rhetoric in UN on Balochistan and KP, the message that may be construed is that both these territories belong to Pakistan, because you are talking about what? There is no self-determination in what you call these two territories. What if UN negotiated, self-determination happens and they chose to stay in Pakistan? Getting my point? So that is the reason why Afghanistan is angry. Please do not make any statement of a territory which does not belong to you. So this has always been an irritant between India and Afghanistan. Okay? So it says please keep your mouth shut when it comes to Balochistan and KP. We will solve it in our own way, and our way is highway. That's what Afghanistan tells always. Okay? And it will happen, don't worry. And maybe one of you will go to fight on behalf of India also. Okay? We will send one of you. Afghanistan in turn wanted India to say that Balochistan and KP should be given to Afghanistan. India responded by saying that India was indirectly trying to support Afghanistan only, because if Pashtuns are in majority in these areas, if the RTSD is made effective and if these Pashtuns wish to go back to Afghanistan, they will choose to be with Afghanistan. But Afghanistan is not very confirmative yes from these Pashtuns. That is the reason why that fear is there. Pakistan did not get any support from any quarter in United Nations, as Pakistan as usual was the aggressor in 1965 war with India. Even the ally of Pakistan, US, did not support Pakistan, and that is the reason why the Tashkent agreement was brokered by USSR and not by US. This you need to understand. So the Tashkent agreement was brokered by USSR. Pakistan got isolated in United Nations. Here Afghanistan felt that if they continue to tilt towards Pakistan, they will also get isolated. So these three slides aim to tell you why Afghanistan tilted towards Pakistan, now why Afghanistan wants to come back from Pakistan, because now they felt that if this guy is isolated in United Nations, if I hang on to his holding his dhoti, I will also get isolated. That is the reason why Afghanistan understood I need to leave Pakistan now. Now this is the start. India even went to the extent of saying that if in future we require to help you in this regard, we may even think of covertly supporting your cause. Covertly, not overtly. That is what India has been doing ever since 1965 till the point when Modi made a statement on the Balochistan issue. For the first time, any Indian Prime Minister or President uttered the word Balochistan from their mouth. It happened for the first time, and he only made one statement: I know what is happening in Balochistan. That's all. He did not say anything. He did not say Balochistan belongs to Afghanistan, I will give Balochistan to Afghanistan, the same way you gave Shaksgam Valley of India to China, I will give Balochistan. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं बोला. But he only made a statement that I know what is happening in Balochistan. It means that there is Indian presence in Balochistan in some way. What is that way? It is not highway, it is covertly. It is covert presence of Indian intelligence elements are there in Pakistan. After the 1965 war, Pakistan never talks of RTSD in Kashmir. This is the beauty. After 1965, it does not talk about the right to self-determination in Kashmir, because it knows that India will counter it with Balochistan and KP, right? It only cries about the human right violation in Kashmir, right? You remember there was a case when Pakistan showcased the photo of a girl who was hit by a pellet gun in United Nations. again shame for Pakistan, because India proved that that photograph was not clicked in the border of India and Pakistan, it was clicked in Israel and Palestinian war. So India proved that. So again Pakistan wrong photograph leke wrong jagah pahunch gaya, theek hai. So see, how can you commit such blunders as a nation? It is like, you know, हम college में कुछ करते हैं ना, so it is like Pakistan is trying to do at international level some wrong things, इसका photo उसके साथ लगा के some morphing they did and try to present it as a proof in front of the United Nations. We took 1 day's time, second day we proved that this is a wrong falsification by Pakistan. Officially Pakistan had to say sorry to India, officially, the word is official, ठीक? But they told it in a very beautiful way. They said it was a typo error. Photograph में typo error कैसा हो सकता है, I don't know, but they said that was a typo error, ठीक? Even the HR violation rhetoric of Pakistan in Kashmir has been localized. Afghanistan therefore takes a U-turn and supports the stand of India, for RTST in Balochistan and KP. So big element of India-Afghanistan relation that you need to understand is, now Balochistan and Afghanistan and India are on the same lines when they want the right to self-determination in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Okay? Now, this is what we have done. The rise of BPLF, very important, try to understand. Balochistan, we will talk about the BPLF in some more detail in couple of slides. From 1966, Pakistan saw the growing nationalism in Balochistan and KP. Pakistan observed this, Pakistan became insecure. Obviously, when the tilt of Afghanistan shifted from Pakistan, though it did not shift towards India, but it understood that there was a growing nationalism in Balochistan for independence from Pakistan, right? So Pakistan started suppressing the nationalistic wave in Balochistan and KP. Pakistan was also upset with the Afghanistan U-turn. So Pakistan in 1968 has become a menace for India. In this backdrop, an understanding developed in India that we need to do something in Pakistan, we need to teach a lesson to them. The moment we understood that we need to teach a lesson to them, we will do something funny there. So that is what our funniness will start now, right? It's India bifurcated the IB and created a specialized external intelligence agency. What is this IB? Intelligence Bureau. So because we need to do something here, as I told you, who is at the helm of affairs in this period? Who is at the helm of affairs after Shastriji dying? He went to Uzbekistan, no? In that process, we lost a prime minister. So Indira Gandhi becomes the prime minister. So she decides that my presence should be established deeper inside Pakistan and Afghanistan. So IB was bifurcated and takes birth an intelligence agency called RAW. The first task given to RAW was to manage Pakistan. This was the task given to them, to manage Pakistan. In this direction, we identified a fault line, and that fault line was East Pakistan. We started playing our cards in East Pakistan. The other fault line identified was Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So we have executed this first fault line in 1971. It is only a matter of time that we will execute this second fault line that we have found in Pakistan. Okay? So these are some of the important dimensions that are taking place in Afghanistan, right? See, what do you understand by plausible deniability? What is plausible deniability? What is plausible deniability? P-L-A-U-S-I-B-L-E. Plausible deniability. You do something, but you should not be caught doing something. Exactly how US has done everything in India via Pakistan, but never got caught. The Britishers, how they did everything in Afghanistan, but never got caught. So you should play your cards very well. So you should be very careful. It is called plausible, not possible. Plausible deniability. It says that we should support our name, we should support, and our name should not come in the limelight. This is what India always adopted. That is the reason why our association with Taliban what it is showcased in newspapers is different than ground reality. Ever since Taliban came to power, India has been continuously engaging with Taliban without openly telling that I am engaging with Taliban. Openly, India always said Taliban, though we did not directly say that they are terrorist organizations, but India openly always maintained distance with Taliban. But covertly, we always were engaging with them. Taliban के साथ हमारा engagement ever since in 1996 they came to power in Afghanistan. Ever since then we have been in touch with Taliban. ठीक है? In 1969 we spoke to USSR. USSR suggested you tell me what you wish to do there. USSR will create a frontal organization in Balochistan and KP. So I used my natural ally to create a frontal organization in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan and fulfill your wish in Balochistan and KP through this frontal organization. So sometimes in 1970 the frontal organization by name Balochistan People's Liberation Front, which is active even today with the support and blessings of RAW, is what you call fighting for the cause of independence of Balochistan. It gets backing of India and USSR covertly. We started providing arms and equipment, money, etc. to them. To whom? To Balochistan People Liberation Front. Two tasks were given to BPLF. Firstly, you will create the rhetoric for right to self-determination repeatedly and also carry out low-scale violence. So the same terrorism card that Pakistan played in India, we joining hands with what you call them low intensity operations, we got executed through the BPLF people. The arms and ammunition were provided covertly by both the countries. The aim of the low scale violence was to grab the media attention. That was the aim of this low intensity warfare. Okay? We'll do one thing, we'll stop here today. From tomorrow we'll try to start from here. If time permits, we'll cover the entire topic tomorrow itself. Okay? Yeah. Anything else? When the tomorrow's fag end of the class, I'll talk about the various treaties that we have signed with Afghanistan, various what you call support projects that we are doing in Afghanistan and important related topics. Okay? Yeah. Anything else? In? See, the problem in Syria, what is happening is because of too many people playing an important role here. On one side Iran, other side Iraq, the other side Russia also trying to come, Israel in some dimension present. It is technically a Shia, but it is not getting support from various other dimensions of Shia also. So there are multiple factors who are playing. I think I have given the responsibility of Syria to somebody. Talk about Syria and IS connect. किसी को दिया था क्या? I did give to somebody. Whom? I wanted somebody to speak about Arab Israel, Israel Palestine also and Syria also. कौन बताएगा सीरिया के बारे में? हाँ, volunteers. Hemant. Not well. हाँ. You are doing on Korean War also. Pujita has done. Have a new batch. Pushwant. Huh? क्या हुआ? You don't have to go to Syria. You have to only talk about Syria. You will do that? Take it. So 1 week's time. Prepare on Syria. Like 8 to 10 slides. His question should be addressed at the end of the slides. ठीक है? उसका सवाल ये है कि शिया है, सुन्नी है, कौन किससे लड़ रहा है? The beauty of Syria conflict is nobody knows who is fighting against whom. If you see the map of Syria, the fighting rebel elements of Syria, all multicolored maps will be there. So because everybody has vested interests there in Syria, so they are trying to find a solution, but nahi hai. See, if you are fighting on this lines, Shia Sunni is a religious what you call fragmentation only. So that is when you will never find a solution. Okay? So that is the reason why now you have to understand Pakistan is not using Muslim card when it speaks about Kashmir now. it does not speak about Muslim card. First it said right to self-determination, after 65 it is saying human rights violations. It is not saying Muslim card. The moment it says Muslim card, it will open up another front. So that is the reason why it does not. But when it goes to fend for money, for carrying out jihad, supporting the terrorism and all, at that particular time it uses the Muslim card. Our Muslim brethren are getting, but in the international platforms it cannot use the Muslim cards there. But it says the minority in India are threatened. So the moment they say minority in India are threatened, what we do is one survey report, we give a Xerox copy, one to Pakistan, one to United Nations. This is the status of my minority. This was what minority Muslims were there when India was formed. Today this is the minority status. Whether you call it upbringing, downpouring. And when, see, you have to understand, Pakistan is not Muhammad Ali Jinnah's creation. Try to understand this dimension. It is the creation of Western countries for their own vested interest. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, after partition, though the constitution was not secular in nature, he made a statement that Pakistan will be a secular country, you don't have to go from Pakistan. That is when people said, then why did you create Pakistan? Simple logic, no? When you created country on religious lines, then you cannot make a statement. You will not believe, you know how he was countered by the West. Because the West did not want Pakistan to play a secular card. The West wanted Pakistan to play religious card only. The moment this guy made this statement, you know what happened next? You will be surprised. The West told Muhammad Ali Jinnah, beta, you have tuberculosis and you do not know about, and really he did not know about it. So they came from the other side to beat him. So after he was positively diagnosed with tuberculosis, his health decay started very strongly. If you know the family history of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, this guy was born in, they are a Hindu family born in Gujarat. His grandfather was a Hindu who was born in Gujarat, who migrated to Karachi because his grandfather was in the occupation of selling fishes. In the Thakkar family, the name of the family was Thakkar. They are pure, you know, they have this being vegetarians, hardcore vegetarians. Because his grandfather continued to sell fishes, he was outcasted. So they faced religious persecution in India. And when he stopped selling fish and tried to do something else, the community did not accept it. So that religious persecution, even after stopping doing something, continued. So in this backdrop, this family converts from Hinduism to Islam, and one of his grandfather's son travels to Karachi, where Muhammad Ali Jinnah is born to this guy. So this is how you need to understand how the leader is born. The leader is born in the shadow of some kind of discrimination to the family. So that hatred or that vengeance or that revenge, that you did not make me live in my own country, you forced me to migrate, so now I will create an independent country for my own self. Okay? So try to understand. The people who were linchpins, very important persons involved in the creation of Pakistan, it is said that all these people saw a very bad end of their life. The person who gave Pakistan the name Pakistan, it is said this guy died on the streets of London begging for his alms. So the people who were involved in the creation of Pakistan did not die a natural death. They had a lot of suffering before they died. Okay? So these dimensions are all talked about in other types of books, not in definitely UPSC books and all. Okay? Don't have to write all these things in UPSC. Okay? Madam. आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर, हाँ बोलो. Will there will be a conflict between Afghanistan and India? No, see, try to understand. A neighbor's neighbor will remain your natural ally. See, do you think Pakistan will keep quiet after Afghanistan taking over this? So Afghanistan would need India. Simple. After taking over also, will Pakistan sit quietly? It will not, right? See, as he said, after 1971, there is a element of revenge with Pakistan. So that revenge bleeding India through 1000 cuts. So if it is bleeding India through 1000 cuts, maybe bleeding Afghanistan to 10 lakh cuts. छोड़ेगा नहीं उसको. India तो asymmetry is there, as he said, you are a bigger nation. Afghanistan is a comparatively smaller nation. So he'll try to bleed you also badly. So to stop Pakistan or to control Pakistan from bleeding you, Afghanistan would need India. Because the moment Pakistan opens the western front, India will open the eastern front. And Pakistan does not have the capacity to fight two-pronged attack at one time. It does not have that capacity. So Afghanistan, if at all that takeover happens, all the more Afghanistan would need India. All the more Afghanistan would need India. Maybe US will come into action again to get entry into Central Asia. So that dimension will open. So disputed territories are an unending, okay? There is no proper climax to these territories. Okay? Yeah. See, that's what I told you, right? You have to understand the intention of the World Bank is to find people who need.
But they could sign it, they could resolve their disputes bilaterally.
Who?
Pakistan.
कहाँ bilaterally? साला इतने लड़ाइयाँ लड़ रहे हो. Bilaterally dimension 72 के बाद आया. See, to say, see, if you are a child, you are 3 siblings. If there is a dispute between you and your brother, whether your parents will interfere or not? Can you say, we will resolve bilaterally, do not interfere? Can you say? No. But you are grown up, you are in your 30s and 40s, there is a dispute between you and your brother. The interference of your parents is further reduced because they know that you are mature, you will deal with your own issues yourself, right? So when you became matured after creating an independent nation, that is when you said, I don't need anybody, I will talk to you directly only. So that bilateral dimension came after certain amount of maturity as a nation came. So it cannot happen when you are immediately born. See, we could not remove Lord Mountbatten immediately. We took some time. Pakistan instantly removed, no? This guy became the Qaeda Khan, your same guy, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. So, but we did not remove him because we wanted to maybe foresee certain other dimensions. So that bilateral quotient in our public dealing or international dealing came after a certain amount of time, not immediately, because you are a young nation. People will try to come to your rescue when there are problems. So that is how as a young nation you should. The moment Bhutan was, attacked by China, they came to us. Bhutan will not say, India, you do not interfere, I will deal with China bilaterally. Can it ever say that? It cannot. So you need to understand the other sidelines, what is happening on the other side. Okay? Yeah. చెప్పు.
మామూలుగా అదే అక్కడ ఆఫ్ఘనిస్తాన్లో హ్యూమన్ రైట్స్ అనేవి ఏమీ ఉండవు.
ఎవరు చెప్పారు?
మీరే చెప్పారు కదా సార్.
See, your definition of human rights is not. अच्छा, human rights से याद आया. One Bhojpuri girl has recorded a song on human rights. Have you heard that song? The entire UP government has shaken with that song. And in that song, she talks about all the fundamental rights one after the other and how they are blatantly abused. She has become a, what you call trolling is happening on her name. The entire government is shaken. And she talks about all these sections, all the articles one after the other. And she brings in that element of Bhojpuri touch also in that and what is happening on ground also. If you understand Hindi properly, you will understand the song also. Try to listen to that song. Very beautifully, 3.5-4 minutes ka song hai. She rattles out all the fundamental rights and she, at the end of each fundamental right, what is the ground reality she tells. Okay, very beautiful. But see, now coming back to your question, he says that there is no fundamental rights in Afghanistan. I agree with your statement, I disagree with your statement. Why? Because your perception of fundamental rights is different than his perception of fundamental rights.
అంటే తాలిబాన్స్కి మార్పు ఇష్టం ఉండదని చెప్పారు కదా సార్. మారడం వాళ్ళ రిలీజియన్ అదే పద్ధతులు జనాల కొత్త అలవాట్లు నేర్చుకోవడం నచ్చుతుంది. మామూలుగా ప్రపంచం అదే ఆల్ కంట్రీస్ అన్ని ఒకవైపు పరిగెడుతుంటే టెక్నాలజీ మామూలుగా అడ్వాన్స్డ్ వెళ్ళిపోతుంటే వాళ్ళు ఇంకా వెనక్కి వెళ్ళిపోతే
It is his choice.
అంటే సార్ ప్రజలు అనే వాళ్ళు ఉంటేనే కదా సార్ వాళ్ళు పాలించడానికి. ఆకలితో చచ్చిపోతే ప్రజలు
See, that's what I am saying. He says, for the cause of nation, I told you, extreme rightist ideology or extreme leftist ideology, who suffers? The common man suffers. The common man suffers. So that is what is happening there also. So they do not believe in single entity fundamental right. They said nation, Taliban, Afghanistan. For that 100 people have to die every day, they do not hesitate on it. For the cause in which they believe, that is their belief system. Whether they are right or wrong is debatable. That is why I said, when you said there is no fundamental rights in Afghanistan, I agree with your statement, I disagree with your statement. So everything is from the power that is flowing through the barrel of the gun. It is not the pen or any written constitution. Somebody tried to make it a constitutional monarchy or something like that, but it did not happen. Because the village elders, the tribal council, they did not accept it. Because they saw their what you call power getting eroded. So they objected. Bola nahi, Afghan, nahi chalega. So he was toppled and somebody else came in his place. So whenever anybody tried to question the functioning system of Afghanistan, that person has been removed from Afghanistan. So this is one unique country on the entire world map. Probably in the near future, when I say near future, 100, 200 years down the line, there is no respite unless and until that sea revolutionary change come in the mindset of the people. But that sea change coming in the mindset is very difficult. It's very difficult. Okay? Try to understand this. Yeah. Chale? Thank you very much.